The galaxy shimmered with the light of countless stars, each orbited by civilizations at varying stages of evolution. Among them, the galactic Concordia reigned supreme, an alliance of advanced species united under a fragile veneer of peace. Into this delicate balance stepped humanity, a young race deemed unremarkable by many, yet curiously ambitious. Their rapid technological advancements and boundless curiosity had won them a tentative seat at the interstellar table, though whispers of skepticism lingered among the elder species. On Velith Prime, a sprawling diplomatic hub suspended in the void, Earth's ambassador, Elena Drake, walked with calm determination into the council chamber. Her every step echoed in the grand hall, its crystalline walls pulsating faintly with an alien bioluminescence. She was no stranger to the distrustful gazes of her peers, but today's session carried a peculiar tension that prickled at the edges of her awareness. The meeting was routine, an arbitration of trade disputes between minor factions, but the presence of Track NAL, a high-ranking diplomat from the YSS Dominion, gave it a volatile edge. The YSS were a warrior species, their dominance etched into the scars that adorned their carapace-like skin. Track NAL himself was a towering figure, his mandibles clicking softly as he observed Elena with what could only be described as disdain. Humans, he had once remarked during an earlier session, are little more than ambitious insects, buzzing too close to the sun. Elena had smiled politely then, choosing diplomacy over confrontation, but his words had stuck with her like a thorn. As the discussions meandered through procedural matters, Elena noticed Track NAL's increasing agitation. His movements were jerky, his eyes shifting toward her with a barely concealed intensity. She remained composed, her voice steady as she presented Earth's position on the matter at hand. The humans were known for their pragmatism, a quality that often disarmed their more volatile counterparts. Then it happened. The chamber erupted in chaos as Track NAL lunged from his seat, his serrated claws glinting in the soft light. Elena had no time to react before the blade plunged into her aid, a young man named Daniel Hayes, who had been standing just behind her. Blood blossomed in a crimson arc as Daniel crumpled to the ground, his eyes wide with shock. The room fell silent, save for the sound of Daniel's labored breaths. Elena knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she tried to staunch the bleeding. Around her, the other diplomats froze, their expressions ranging from horror to calculated indifference. "What have you done?" Elena's voice was low, trembling with a mixture of fury and grief. Track NAL stepped back, his mandibles clicking in what could only be described as satisfaction. "An insect in the wrong place," he said coldly, wiping his blade on the edge of his robe. A surge of rage coursed through Elena, but she forced herself to stand, her hands slick with Daniel's blood. "This is an act of murder, an attack not just on Earth, but on the principles of this council." The silence stretched unbearably. Finally, High Arbitrator of Khan, a luminescent being of the Lyrathi species, raised a tentacled limb. "Ambassador Drake," he intoned, his voice reverberating with an unnatural resonance. "This is a grievous incident, but we must not act rashly. Let us deliberate." "Deliberate?" Elena snapped, her composure fracturing. "A man lies dying because of a baseless attack, and you want to deliberate? This council was formed to uphold justice. If it cannot do so, then it stands for nothing." Her words hung heavy in the air, but Khan's response was measured. "We must consider all perspectives. The YSS Dominion has long held grievances, and this isn't about grievances," Elena interrupted. "It's about accountability." But the murmurs in the chamber suggested otherwise. Some diplomats nodded in agreement with Elena, while others exchanged wary glances, their alliances with the YSS rendering them silent. Track NAL's mandibles twitched in amusement. Perhaps humans need a reminder of their place in the cosmos. Elena's fists clenched at her sides, but she said nothing more. She knew the futility of arguing here, in this chamber steeped in politics and self-interest. Instead, she turned back to Daniel. His breathing was shallow now, his life slipping away with each passing moment. "Hold on," she whispered, though her voice faltered. His eyes met hers, a mixture of pain and trust that tore at her heart. The medics arrived moments later, whisking Daniel away in a flurry of urgency, but Elena knew it was too late. As she stood, her blood-stained hands trembling, she faced the council one last time. "Earth will not forget this," she said, her voice steady despite the storm within her. "Nor will we forgive." With that, she turned and left the chamber, her footsteps echoing like a tolling bell. Behind her, the council dissolved into murmurs, their discussions already shifting away from justice and toward damage control. Back on Earth, the news of the attack spread like wildfire. Daniel Hayes became a symbol, his name etched into the hearts of billions. Protests erupted across the globe, demanding action. Politicians made fiery speeches, vowing to defend humanity's honor. But amidst the chaos, a quiet determination took hold. In a secluded room at the United Earth Command, Admiral Karina Salas reviewed the incident footage with grim focus. Her jaw tightened as she watched track NAL's blade strike, the arrogance in his posture as he dismissed the life he had taken. "They think we're weak," she murmured to no one in particular. "It's time to show them they're wrong." Across the galaxy, the coalition's leaders assumed Earth's fury would dissipate, that humanity would bow to the Council's placating words. But they underestimated the fire that burned within this young species. Elena Drake stood before the United Earth Council days later, her voice unwavering as she recounted the events on Velith Prime. "The galaxy has made its stance clear. They see us as expendable, unworthy of respect or justice. But we are not powerless. We are not afraid." The chamber erupted in applause, a unanimous call for action. Humanity had been struck, but it would not break. It would rise, stronger and more united than ever before. As the stars bore silent witness, the galaxy would soon learn the cost of underestimating humanity. The silence from Earth was deafening. For weeks after the attack on Velith Prime, humanity withdrew from the Galactic Concordia, severing communication channels and recalling its ambassadors. To the Coalition's elder races, this retreat seemed like an admission of defeat, a validation of their perception of humanity as fragile and inexperienced. Whispers of Earth's irrelevance rippled through the galaxy's political spheres. Yet, to those who watched more closely, the silence was unsettling, a prelude to something far more deliberate. Admiral Karina Salas stood at the edge of the observation deck aboard the Ardent Dawn, Earth's flagship stationed in orbit above the moon. Below, the planet glowed with the serene light of an unbroken world, but within its cities and command centers, a storm brewed. She glanced at the latest reports scrolling across her wrist console, her sharp eyes scanning the data. The pieces were falling into place, but the sheer scale of their undertaking still weighed on her. Behind her, Dr. Marcus Thorne entered, his lab coat swishing around his legs. Thorne, Earth's leading mind in quantum systems, carried the weariness of sleepless nights and ceaseless calculations. "Admiral," he began, his voice tinged with exhaustion, but also something else: resolve. Karina turned, her stern expression softening slightly. "How close are we?" Thorne gestured to the console she'd been reviewing. "The network will be operational in 3 days. The drones are calibrated, and the first wave of prototypes has exceeded expectations." But he hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "But there's no precedent for this. If we're wrong, if even one subsystem fails, the backlash could destabilize half our planetary infrastructure." Karina stepped closer, her presence commanding but not unkind. "Marcus, we don't have the luxury of failure. The Coalition doesn't believe we're capable of defending ourselves, let alone retaliating. They need to see what humanity can achieve when pushed to the brink." Thorne nodded, though doubt flickered in his eyes. "I just hope they're ready for what that looks like." On Earth, factories roared to life under the guise of routine industrial output, but their true purpose was anything but mundane. In underground facilities and isolated research stations, humanity poured its collective will into preparation. Engineers fine-tuned stealth systems that rendered ships invisible to traditional scans, while biochemists developed countermeasures to neutralize the toxins favored by the YSS-CAR. Cybernetic experts wrote algorithms capable of infiltrating and subverting even the most secure coalition networks. Every effort, every innovation, was singularly focused on turning the galaxy's underestimation of humanity into its gravest mistake. Elena Drake, still recovering from the loss of her aide, played a pivotal role in shaping Earth's diplomatic countermeasures. From her secure office within the United Earth Diplomatic Corps, she reviewed intercepted coalition communications. The Council's deliberations revealed deep fractures. While some species advocated for disciplinary action against Track NAL, others argued for maintaining their tenuous alliance with the YSS-CAR. The division only emboldened Earth's resolve. A message from Admiral Salas pinged on Elena's console. It was short and direct. Asterisk, we're ready for Phase 2. Let me know when it's time to speak. Asterisk. Elena leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. The timing had to be perfect. For weeks, she'd carefully cultivated Earth's silence, ensuring the coalition grew complacent. Now, the galaxy's eyes needed to shift back to Earth, not to see its fury, but to understand its intent. She composed a response. Asterisk, prepare to broadcast. The Council will hear from us tomorrow. Asterisk. The next day, the Coalition Council convened on Velith Prime. The central chamber, with its high, luminous walls, hummed with the usual tension, though Track NAL's absence hung over the gathering like a shadow. He had returned to the YSS-CAR Dominion after the attack, unapologetic and unpunished. As debates droned on, the Council chamber's holographic interface flickered unexpectedly. High Arbitrator Khan raised a tentacle, his luminous form pulsing in annoyance. This session is private. Who dares to intrude? The hologram resolved into the unmistakable image of Elena Drake, her sharp features framed by the golden insignia of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Apologies for the interruption, she said, her voice carrying an icy calm. But Earth has a message for the Council. A murmur rippled through the room, some diplomats shifting uncomfortably, others leaning forward with curiosity. Elena Drake, Khan said, his tone wavering between authority and unease. You no longer hold the privileges of this council. Privileges? Elena's lips curled into a faint smile. Let's discuss privileges, High Arbitrator. A human diplomat was murdered in this very chamber, and Earth's calls for justice were ignored. Instead, you allowed his killer to walk free, sending a clear message to my people. The lives of humans mean nothing to this council. That is a gross misrepresentation, an alien delegate interjected, his scaled face twisting in indignation. Is it? Elena asked, her gaze unwavering. Your inaction speaks louder than any words. Khan's glow dimmed slightly, a sign of discomfort. What is the purpose of this interruption, Ambassador Drake? To inform you that Earth will no longer tolerate this insult, Elena replied. For too long, you've underestimated us. You've seen us as a minor player, a species too young to matter. That ends today. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Across the galaxy, similar messages were broadcast to every major coalition outpost. Humanity's voice rang clear. They would not be dismissed or trifled with. As the coalition scrambled to interpret Earth's sudden reappearance, Admiral Salas and her fleet moved into position. From hidden bases scattered across the solar system, humanity's response began to take shape. In the final hours before deployment, Karina stood on the bridge of the Ardent Dawn, watching as Earth's newly minted stealth cruisers disappeared into the void, their hulls gleaming with experimental cloaking technology. She felt the weight of every decision she'd made, every life placed under her command. This isn't just about revenge, she said quietly to her second-in-command, Captain Arun Malik. This is about showing them who we are, that we won't be bullied, and we won't be ignored. They won't see it coming, Malik replied, his voice tinged with grim satisfaction. They won't, Karina agreed. But when they do, they'll never forget. Humanity's silence had been a prelude, but now the galaxy would hear their response. Not in words, but in actions, in the unforgiving language of survival. The first strike came without warning. Coalition outposts along the contested border with the YSS Dominion reported anomalies seconds before their communications went dark. Across a dozen systems, key installations that had long stood as symbols of the Coalition's supremacy were reduced to silence. There was no great fanfare, no boasts or declarations. The attacks were precise, calculated, and utterly devastating. On the bridge of the Ardent Dawn, Admiral Karina Salas watched the tactical displays with cold intensity. Holograms mapped the chaos unfolding light years away, showing clusters of Coalition vessels scrambling to respond. Their movements were erratic, uncoordinated, a symptom of a Council too complacent in its assumed invincibility. Karina turned to Captain Arun Malik, who stood beside her with arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Reports from the stealth fleet?" Karina asked, her voice clipped and precise. "All units have returned to Cloak," Malik replied. "No losses, no detected countermeasures." Karina nodded, though she felt no satisfaction. The first strike was only the opening gambit. The Coalition had underestimated humanity for far too long, and now they were reeling, unsure of the scope or origin of the attacks. And the response? Malik's fingers danced across his console, pulling up intercepted transmissions. Confusion. Panic. The Council's fleets are scrambling to secure their borders, but they still don't know it's us. He glanced at her, a flicker of concern in his eyes. They will though, sooner or later. They were warned, Karina said simply. Far from the chaos of the front lines, Elena Drake sat in a secure chamber deep within the United Earth Diplomatic Corps headquarters. A massive monitor dominated the room, displaying live feeds from Coalition broadcasts. Alien faces filled the screen, their expressions ranging from outrage to disbelief. "Do we respond?" one of her aides asked, his tone wary. "Not yet," Elena said, her gaze fixed on the screen. The Coalition's leaders were fraying under the pressure, their unity splintering with each passing moment. This was humanity's opportunity, but it required patience. The Council chamber on Velith Prime descended into chaos as delegates shouted over one another, their voices blending into an incoherent cacophony. High Arbitrator of Khan struggled to maintain order, his luminous form pulsing erratically. "Silence," he finally bellowed, his voice amplified to a thunderous roar. "This council will come to order." The room quieted, though the tension remained palpable. A reptilian diplomat from the Thren Coalition stood, his scales glinting under the chamber's lights. "These attacks are unprecedented. The Council's security is in shambles, and we're left vulnerable. We must determine the perpetrators and respond with force." Another voice rose, sharp and accusatory. "This reeks of human involvement. Their absence, their silence, it all fits." Khan raised a tentacle to forestall the argument, but his glow dimmed as he considered the accusation. "We lack evidence," he said, though his tone betrayed uncertainty. The Coalition's indecision played perfectly into Earth's hands. As their fleets scrambled and their alliances faltered, humanity moved forward with quiet precision. Admiral Salas issued her next orders without hesitation. Initiate Phase 2. Deploy the interference satellites. In uncharted sectors of space, small, unassuming objects emerged from stealth carriers, their surfaces rippling as they activated. These satellites emitted waves of advanced electromagnetic interference, disrupting Coalition communications and rendering their vast networks of coordination useless. What had begun as isolated chaos spread like wildfire, leaving even the most disciplined fleets struggling to maintain order. But humanity's actions were not purely destructive. On neutral worlds, where innocence bore witness to the unfolding conflict, humanity took a different approach. Human emissaries, escorted by cloaked vessels, delivered messages of solidarity and protection. They brought food, medicine, and technology, ensuring that their intentions were clear. Humanity sought justice, not conquest. Elena oversaw these efforts personally, ensuring every action reinforced Earth's narrative. "They need to see who we really are," she said during a briefing. "Not as aggressors, but as a people willing to stand against tyranny." The Coalition's response was predictably uneven. Some factions demanded immediate retaliation, pushing for a united front against Earth. Others hesitated, wary of provoking a species that had already demonstrated such calculated ingenuity. Track NAL and the YSS car, however, were less restrained. On a secure channel, intercepted by Earth's cybernetic operatives, Track NAL's voice hissed with fury. Humanity's audacity will be crushed. Prepare the fleets. We will make an example of their homeworld. Admiral Salas listened to the transmission in silence before forwarding it to Elena. We knew this was coming, Karina said when Elena called. They'll come for Earth. They have no choice. Elena's expression was unreadable, her mind already calculating the next move. Then let them come, she said. The final confrontation came days later, when the YSS car fleet emerged at the edge of the Sol system. Thousands of vessels, bristling with weaponry, advanced in perfect formation. Their arrival was a declaration of intent, a show of power designed to break humanity's resolve. But humanity was ready. At the heart of Earth's defenses stood the Ardent Dawn, flanked by the newly christened Resolute and Vanguard. These ships, equipped with the most advanced technology humanity had ever developed, waited in eerie silence as the YSS car fleet approached. Karina Salas stood on the bridge, her posture unyielding as she issued commands. Hold position. Let them see us. The YSS car ships halted just outside weapons range, their formations shifting like a predator circling its prey. Track NAL's voice boomed across the comm channels, his tone dripping with arrogance. Humans, your defiance ends here. Surrender, and we may yet spare your world. Karina activated the comms, her voice calm but resolute. You've made one critical mistake. Track NAL. You assumed we'd face you on your terms. At her signal, Earth's hidden fleets decloaked around the YSS car armada, their weapons already locked and primed. Track NAL ships scrambled to respond, but the trap had been perfectly set. What followed was not a battle, but a dismantling. Humanity's ships moved with precision, exploiting every weakness in the YSS car formations. Advanced targeting systems disabled enemy vessels with surgical efficiency, while Earth's cybernetic attacks rendered their command systems useless. Track NAL's flagship, the Dominion's Pride, was the last to fall. As it drifted, powerless and surrounded, Karina delivered her final message. This is the cost of your arrogance. Earth will not bow. Remember that. In the aftermath, humanity extended a hand to the coalition, offering terms that ensured peace while securing Earth's place as a power to be reckoned with. Elena stood before the council once more, her voice steady and unyielding. We sought justice, not war. Let this be a lesson, for all of us. The galaxy would never forget.